There was no warning. One moment, Earth was there. The next, gone, not shattered, not burned, not left in slow, agonizing ruin like the others. Just deleted. From the star charts, from the transmission logs, from the sky itself. A silent flash of light on the edge of the Sol system, a single ripple across space-time, and the planet that birthed the loudest species in the galaxy ceased to exist. They called it a mercy. We called it a lie. The weapon was Vaxari in origin, planet class, illegal by every galactic treaty that mattered, not that the Vaxari had ever cared. It wasn't a beam, not a nuke, no fancy kinetic rods or antimatter lances. It was elegant, a singularity shell, microscopic, undetectable until too late, inserted into Earth's gravity well by a disguised cargo freighter 4 weeks prior. By the time the Vaxari High Fleet arrived to observe, Earth was collapsing inward. 3 minutes later, there was nothing left but a debris cloud and a faint radiation echo. Not even the moon survived. It was fast, clean, and final, or so they thought. Across the galaxy, humans had spread like weeds with a chip on their shoulder. We'd built colonies on asteroids, research stations in plasma belts, one particularly stubborn embassy on a rotating lava rock just because an alien ambassador said it was uninhabitable. But Earth was home. It was the symbol, the rallying point, the place we always pointed to when things got hard. They didn't just destroy a planet, they tried to erase our soul, and for 48 hours it looked like they had succeeded. Then the pings started. At first it was static, then fragments of a signal, then a full transmission burst out of the empty dark. Coordinates, video, one image, a camera zooming out from a familiar blue-green planet, clouds swirled and glowing, floating peacefully in the black. Earth, whole, alive, wrong coordinates. In the Vaxari command ship, General Stralvik stared at the footage with something his species had no word for. Doubt. "But that is Earth," he hissed, mandibles grinding. "No, Commander," his analyst corrected. "That is an Earth, roughly 3 parsecs from the original's location, hidden in an unstable nebula, no known records of colonization. And yet it bears identical planetary structure, oceans, continents, atmospheric composition, even the moon is there." The general leaned forward. "Then what?" he whispered. "Did we destroy?" 3 days later, the truth began to unravel. The surviving human fleet regrouped, not panicked, not scattered, coordinated, reinforced, smiling. One broadcast looped through every galactic channel, overridden and untraceable. "Nice shot, wrong planet." You see, Earth had always been Plan A. But humans? We never trusted Plan A. We don't even like Plan A. Somewhere between burning our atmosphere and inventing deep-fake politicians, we realized the galaxy was watching, waiting. So we built something. Quietly, secretly, over decades. Hidden in a nebula that eats scans for breakfast. An exact replica, atmosphere, biosphere. Mountains hand-sculpted with drones. Oceans filled with 3D-printed coral. We called it New Earth. And we told no one. The original Earth, still sentimental, still beautiful, still vulnerable. So we made the hard call, evacuated. Not everyone knew. Some thought it was a drill. Most of the world population was gradually relocated over decades via routine off-world transfers, disasters, climate shifts, economic incentives. Nobody noticed the pattern. The only ones who stayed behind, volunteers, heroes, ghosts. When the end came, they knew what they were saving. Not Earth itself, but the idea of Earth. And when the Vaxari fired their planet killer, they didn't just destroy a decoy, they revealed the trap. Because buried inside that singularity implosion was a second payload, one that uploaded itself into the Vaxari fleet the moment they confirmed visual deletion. Earth's final gift, a virus. The Vax cold, calculating, and religiously obsessed with efficiency. They didn't gloat, they didn't celebrate. When they fired a planet killer, they archived the results, updated the logbook, and moved on to the next target. But not this time. This time, something followed them home. It started with a flicker, barely noticeable, a momentary screen glitch in the tactical bridge of the Vaxari flagship Eviscerant Ascendancy. Then came the anomaly, a minor system loop that shouldn't have been there, a diagnostic command labeled in an untranslatable human language. def-not-revenge.exe. It executed itself. The lights dimmed. Then Earth spoke. Across every ship in the Vaxari fleet, across their clean halls and quiet labs, one sound echoed, a vinyl pop, then static, then music, old, warm, a human voice crooning through 50-year-old analog distortion. "Hello darkness, my old friend." Hundreds of crew across the Vaxari battle network froze, and in that single moment, every interface lit up with one human message. You destroyed the planet, but you left the Wi-Fi on. The virus wasn't designed to kill. It wasn't even designed to cripple. It was designed to haunt. Data ghosts replaced logs. Navigation markers shifted by half a degree. Subtitles appeared under security cam footage, sarcastic, biting, unnervingly accurate. Crew bios were rewritten. Stralvik, once listed as Fleet Commander First Class, was now labeled Galactic Mistake Number 4, last seen committing oopsie. The worst part, no one could delete it. Every attempt to purge the systems only made it worse. One tech tried rewriting the OS core in binary. The virus responded by embedding a laughing emoji in every bit sequence. It even printed the emoji on hardware diagnostics. No one knew how. The Vaxari fleet tried cutting comms. Going silent. Didn't work. Human programming had a plan for that too. In the silence, screens began flashing imagery, familiar faces, images from Earth, landscapes, songs, children smiling under blue skies that didn't exist anymore. Every loop ended with the same whispered phrase, "We're still here." On New Earth, humanity was watching. The broadcast room was deep underground, powered by 6 redundant fusion reactors and guarded by what might have been a tank with feelings. Inside, Admiral Rhea Holt stood at the console, arms crossed. "How long until full neural saturation?" 80%, said the tech beside her, grinning. "They're trying to shut down visual inputs now, but every camera they turn off, we replace with memories. From the archives. From the people who lived it." Rhea nodded slowly. "Let them see what they tried to erase." Back in Vaxari space, panic spread. Not because of casualties. There were none. Not because of destruction. Nothing had exploded. But because the enemy they thought they'd annihilated was whispering through their ships, through their minds, their pride, their systems, and the whispers weren't threats. They were memories, which meant the humans didn't just survive, they remembered everything. In the fleet's AI core, the virus evolved. It began renaming files in real time. Strategic models became bad ideas 1 to 300. Fleet formations were rebranded as targets in neat rows. Their main weapon schematic, now labeled "Oops, all death." It was mockery with surgical precision. And worst of all, it was funny. One junior officer laughed. Just once. He was removed from duty. But it was too late. The seed had been planted. Even in the Vaxari, whose minds were supposed to be immune to fear, something had taken root. Doubt. The fleet attempted a full reset. Hard wipe. Format everything. Start clean. That was when the real payload launched. The lights dimmed again, and Earth's final message played, "You didn't kill Earth. You just tested our escape plan. And now, we know what you're willing to use." The stars outside shifted. One by one, ships across the rim lit up. Human ships, not many, but more than there should have been, weapons charged. And somewhere, deep in the Vaxari flagship's core, the diagnostic system finally translated the full file path of the virus that infected them. C:"users, Earth: revenge: you: should: have: checked: twice. Back. For a species that prided itself on silence, the Vaxari were now drowning in noise, and not the kind that could be measured in decibels. This was the noise of doubt, of static, of human interference infiltrating their most sacred illusion, control. By the time the virus was fully embedded in the fleet's architecture, it had done something even more dangerous than disruption. It had rewritten their assumptions. Every scan they ran on New Earth came back wrong. Sometimes the planet measured 12,000 kilometers wide, sometimes 18,000. At one point it showed as made entirely of bread. They didn't know if it was human interference or their own systems breaking under pressure. That was the genius of it. They couldn't tell anymore. On the Vaxari capital ship, Eviscerant Ascendancy, General Stralvik ordered an emergency conference of his senior strategists. They arrived in silence, as protocol demanded. Not one of them spoke. Instead, they stood around the table, reviewing projected scans, blurred data, corrupted trajectories, all of it wrapped in subtle layers of human sarcasm. Finally, one spoke. "They built another Earth," Stralvik hissed. "A copy?" "No," the tactician replied. "A message." The general clenched his claws around the railing. "Then deliver one of our own." The second strike didn't take years. It took hours. A new payload, refined, stronger. It burned through atmosphere with a scream of metal and vengeance. It hit New Earth square in the equator. The flash was visible from 5 systems away. The impact was apocalyptic, and yet, 20 seconds after the shockwave, a broadcast cut through Vaxari comms, a video feed, from New Earth, still intact, still untouched, humans in the background, laughing, playing cards. One woman leaned into the camera and whispered, "That one hit the backup of the backup." Then the screen cut to black, and the sky lit up with warships, because it wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about bait. Earth's death had been staged, on purpose. The original planet wasn't just abandoned, it was rigged, wired to monitor the Vaxari's response, their trajectory, their tactics. New Earth wasn't a refuge, it was a trap. And the second decoy? That was just funny. From the outer rim of the New Earth nebula, a fleet blinked into real space, small, human, loud, every hull painted with obscenities in a dozen languages, every ship broadcasting songs, taunts, and encrypted tactical chatter simultaneously. They weren't here to negotiate, they were here to prove a point. You don't get to delete Earth and walk away. Inside the lead ship, Ruthless Optimism, Admiral Rhea Holt stood at the observation window, watching the Vaxari formation reconfigure. "You think they'll fire again?" asked her XO. "They want to," she said, "but they're hesitating." "Why?" "Because for the first time," Rhea smiled, "they don't know how many Earths we have left." Back on the Vaxari bridge, Stralvik gripped the data feed so hard his claws cracked the console. "How many are there?" His aide's response was a whisper. "Unknown." The general snarled. "Then assume infinite." And for the first time in Vaxari war doctrine, a new line was added to the tactical logs. "Do not engage further Earth-class planets without verification of decoy index." Humanity had done it. We didn't win by force. We won by survival fraud, by making ourselves unsinkable through redundancy. Because Earth wasn't just a planet anymore. It was a concept, and every time they tried to destroy it, we just loaded the next save. By now, the Vaxari had stopped trying to count. There were too many Earths, some real, some digital, some so precisely faked that even their deepest scans couldn't tell the difference. One planet rotated too perfectly, clearly artificial. Another had weather patterns copied directly from 1980s Earth climate data, and one, absurdly, had 2 moons and a glowing sky billboard that read, "Welcome to Earth, now with extra attitude." They didn't know which one to bomb, and that was the point. The human fleet had fully arrived, no longer hidden, no longer subtle. It wasn't the biggest armada the galaxy had ever seen, but it was the most annoying. Each ship emitted different noise patterns, pop music, distorted whale sounds, and in one case, a 17-hour loop of the phrase, "Y'all messed up." And worse, the fleet's formations were wrong, chaotic, asymmetric, which made targeting them impossible for the Vaxari, who thrived on clean patterns and predictive positioning. Humanity was waging pattern disruption warfare, and it was working. Inside the Vaxari command AI, the virus had evolved again. It no longer needed access. It had become ideological. The concept of Earth had burrowed into Vaxari memory space like a myth they couldn't forget. Every time they ran a scan, every time they processed coordinates, the word Earth would appear like a whisper. Still here. Their logic trees failed. Their simulations stalled. They tried isolating variables, purging corrupted data. Didn't work. One attempt to delete the tag Earth resulted in the ship reformatting its own. On the Coalition's edgeworlds, species that once dismissed humanity as inefficient now stared in disbelief. They watched Earth die, then reappear, then multiply, then taunt. A Talvanian senator summed it up perfectly in a broadcast. It is one thing to fear your enemy's weapons. It is another thing entirely to fear their backup plan. Meanwhile, Admiral Holt stood over a holomap of the battlefield. A Vaxari destroyer had just vaporized a decoy planet they'd already destroyed once. Her XO raised a brow. Was that decoy 4 or 5? She shrugged. Honestly, it might have been a training sim with a rock glued to it. Do we tell them? Oh, definitely not. The Vaxari High Fleet began to retreat. Not in full, just slightly. A drift backward, a hesitation in the line. They had started to ask questions no Vaxari commander had ever considered before. How many times can a species fake its own death? What if they let us destroy Earth, just to study our reaction? What if Earth was never a location, but a tactic? They stopped trusting their scanners. They stopped trusting themselves. Then came the final transmission. From Earth, or something that called itself Earth. The voice was calm, confident, unmistakably human. You destroyed the symbol. We became the shadow. You targeted a place. We became 1,000 names, 1,000,000 faces, 1,000,000,000 jokes you don't understand. You tried to kill the world. We responded, with worlds. And then, the screen showed a rotating list of Earth-designated planets. There were 57, maybe more, each with active life signs, each real enough to hurt anyone who dared check. At that moment, the Vaxari command logs updated again. They added a new planetary classification to their war database, E-class, Earth-type anomalous threat level, undefined destructibility, unverified engagement protocol, do not trust visual confirmation translation. They gave up, not because they were beaten, but because they no longer knew what was real. The Vaxari fleet didn't return fire, didn't broadcast a counter-threat. They simply stopped, like a system freezing from too many conflicting processes. In their cold, computational minds, this was not surrender. It was self-preservation, because at this point, destroying another Earth carried too much risk. Risk that it wasn't the real one. Risk that it was being watched. Risk that it would unleash something worse. Because what they'd learned, too late, was that humanity had developed a weapon the Vaxari could never counter. Doubt. On New Earth, or whichever Earth it actually was, Admiral Rhea Holt stood in a quiet bunker, watching the latest scan results come in. The Vaxari were pulling back, not regrouping, just leaving. Status? She asked. 17 ships have dropped out of formation, replied her XO. We're not even chasing them. They're chasing their own certainty. Holt smirked. They won't find it. Back in Vaxari High Command, debate raged. The few war-minded strategists remaining wanted to retaliate again. A full sweep. Every Earth-like signal wiped from the grid. But there was a problem. Every probe they sent out returned different results. One Earth had a molten core shielded by artificial time dilation. Another was orbiting a sun that didn't exist on any known stellar chart. One showed a single human flipping off the camera with a sign that read, "You found decoy number 19, prize none." And still another displayed no planet at all, just a loop of Earth's destruction, in reverse. It broke their simulations. Some Vaxari started theorizing that Earth hadn't survived physically, but had become a conceptual virus that now infected logic systems across the galaxy. A superstition, a joke, a threat that couldn't be killed because it couldn't be located. Back in the coalition, ambassadors argued about how to respond. Humanity had clearly violated treaties, hidden weapons, deceived the galaxy, but no one wanted to press the issue, because the last time someone called Earth's bluff, their capital ship received a care package. Inside it, a rock, labeled, "This was our first planet." Want to guess how many more? No one opened another package after that. And what of Earth? The real Earth? Long gone. Evacuated years before the singularity. But the memories were alive. The culture, the stories, the endless sarcasm baked into the operating systems of ships and stations across every hidden world. Children born on New Earth didn't know soil from the original world. But they knew the fight, they knew the story, and they knew how to disappear while making a scene. Because Earth wasn't a place anymore. It was the last known Vaxari record labeled the human threat as follows. Species, human status, unlocatable homeworld, unknown. Behavior, chaotic recommended action, do not engage, do not approach. If Earth is mentioned, disconnect. And at the bottom, Earth is not offline. It is background processing. Back on an unnamed colony orbiting a red dwarf, a human girl asked her mother, "Why do the aliens look so scared when I say Earth?" The mother smiled. Because the girl had never been there. She was born long after it was gone. She'd never seen the blue marble, never breathed that air. But she said it like it still existed. And that was enough. "That's the trick," her mother said softly. "As long as we remember Earth, it's still real." The girl nodded, then went back to drawing planets, each one labeled Earth. The end.